we wanted to spend the last 20 minutes before we go to Scott Aronson, back with the AMA session in the plenary, to think about 2022. And the title is Global Outlook 2022. If you look back at this conference, you've been in the different sessions, etc. Maybe quickly, is there something that surprised you, something you want to highlight that you might not have seen coming, or you want to give a little bit of an extra shout out, something that we will talk about in 2022? Can I give the word to Celia first, maybe? But then I'll move this one over here. There you go.
So,
Is that on?
Not really.
You have to put it on.
I got it.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's fine.
Oh, there we have 2 microphones.
3 out of 4.
I think maybe it's hard to really identify something that was a big surprise, and maybe that's a good news in and of itself. I was here 2 years ago, and the tone at this meeting, I think, is very optimistic. I did hear on a number of occasions, and I was looking through my notes, and I see the word test bed a lot of times. And so that sort of is a sign that we're ready to do some testing and demonstrations and prototypes that maybe 2 years ago we were hearing more sort of about the potential and the hope and anticipation. And now if we're talking about test beds, we're talking about really concrete action. So I hope that's what we see more of.
Right, we'll keep test beds. Tommaso?
Yes, well, a positive surprise is, I was I was not very positively surprised because, John Presky's talks are always wonderful. So the fact that it was a wonderful talk did not surprise me. But I liked very much the last statement in which he drew what I like to call the BS line, when he said, we should better walk on this side of the BS line. And I should say that I was positively, pleasantly surprised that the BS level from 2 years was substantially lower. This is encouraging. I don't think it was yet on the right side of the line, but it was definitely an important improvement.
Okay. All right, so we expect a different graph next year. Maybe any other surprise before we go to Freeke and Enrique? Any other surprises you want to share? And I can turn that on. Me.
Test, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was a little bit surprised that a lot of companies were talking about fault tolerance computing, and that NISC came a little bit on the back burner, in my opinion.
Okay, so we moved a little bit away from NISC towards...
We moved away from immediate quantum advantage, it feels.
Okay, anything else? No? Freeke?
Yeah, maybe a bit in the same direction. It struck me that there is not yet consensus on where it's going. So it's still some companies really focusing on NISC devices, others on fault-tolerant computing. And yeah, to me, that's a sign that we're still in early days. And I'm together with Jerry Chow chairing the World Economic Forum Global Future Council on Quantum Computing. And yeah, I think it's important to get sort of a state of quantum report out that really on a global level feeds into this discussion so that there's some sort of common understanding. And of course, we don't all have to agree, but it would be nice to have some sort of common understanding. And I think what QED-C is doing with the benchmarking and standards and things like that, that's really encouraging because that's helping that.
Okay, so that's your homework for going to Davos? And
yes, that's my homework.
We'll come back to you in 2022. Enrique?
Well, thanks. This is my first time here, the Q2B, but it was just, we were just discussing yesterday that the high level or high number of discussions about errors and how to measure the errors and how the errors are going and so on. So as you said before, this is not exactly the point we are still, but we are improving at that, and we are also just measuring that, and we can see definitely some differences in some cases.
Thank you. What are your priorities going forward? Now, just keep the microphone Enrique, if you look ahead for the next year, what are the most urgent issues you want to pick up and you would be able to present next year here?
In the case of the QuIC,
Yes.
especially.
Yes.
Well, we, as I said, we are just a newborn. So our first or most priorities is just the strategic roadmap, first of all, because we have to inform the particular financial politics of the European Commission, and also to develop and increase the number of members and develop the links between them and the different working groups. Getting that from the beginning with 140 members is complex, is difficult, and coordinate that and make it work is our first priority at this point.
Okay, but imagine that would be done by January 1st. What would your priority be in terms of what is the first thing you want to get started with as quick?
As quick, I mean, the first thing we want to do, or the two things we want to do is just to get influence on the particular financial politics, to say something, or subsidy publics or grant policies of the European Union, and also just to increase the number, from our point of view, naturally, of the SMEs and startups that has to appear in Europe.
Mm-hmm. Give me one example of what's the tool, the mechanism you think works for doing that?
For doing that, this is my personal, I mean, I'm just not talking at this moment about QuIC. I mean, this is a personal view on the global game, and this will be, okay, we need to have some global champions in the sense of quantum, particularly in some fields, obviously, quantum computing, that will be, but that means also to change and improve not only the granting policy of the European Union just to attract more foreign capital, but also to make this number of startups, as I said before, increase. And increase not only in number, but also in cooperation with the large industries we have there. I mean, the cooperation between large and small companies is vital. It's vital to attract talent, it's vital to attract funding, it's vital to create this kind of unicorns. Okay, the other day I heard that unicorn is the mode, but we need to change this part of the economic game, particularly in quantum.
Mm-hmm. And what I heard in one of the sessions, I can't remember which one it was, somebody mentioned that we're not looking for unicorns anymore, we should looking for kilocoins. So even more work there. Homework for you, you had this nice picture of San Sebastian on the slide with 65 cities that are unicorn cities. So next year maybe you could come up with 65 pictures that are as nice as the one from San Sebastian. And then
that will be super nice. I mean, one of the challenges that Europe has faced always is not only just to raise the companies, but also to support them and avoid them to, let's say, migrate to some other particular places in the world that are well better suited to scale up these companies.
Yeah.
Okay, so that will be nice. It's not only we have these 65 pictures of quantum unicorns in Europe and different places, which is something that I think that someday we will just have. But also, as you say, how do you say?
Kilocorns.
Kilocorns.
Unicorns, kilocorns. Can't remember who said that. Anyone? Not sure who was. No? Wasn't there too? Freeke, priorities for 2022.
Yes, well, the scaling of the startup ecosystem was already mentioned, so I will name another one, and that's a cultural one. So I think we have a big challenge in this field to increase diversity and inclusiveness. And of course, yeah, I mean, look around in this room, it's about gender, but it's more than that. It's also about ways of working, multidisciplinarity, not only PhDs, but also other levels. So really, yeah, breaking down barriers between sub-ecosystems and get a different culture where more people feel welcome to engage.
And I mean, you hear that often, and it's a long game. If you have 2022, are there things that can be done quickly? Is that feasible?
I think what we can do quickly is to have this coaching kind of coaching network for these startups as well, so that they are not locked in their environment where they grew up in, and that keeps them back. But you connect them with successful companies from different fields and venture capital and things like that. So that's. I don't want to go into the gender thing because I don't think it's so easy. So I can name one thing, but it's challenging.
Yeah, so homework will come back in 2022 and ask what you've done.
Yes.
Tommaso.
So, well, we have a lot of priorities for the flagship, but in this context, one I would like to mention is connected with these two little objects I have on the table. So this is something which most of you do not even know that exists. And even less have it. This is the world's first consumer device which contains quantum technologies of the second generation. It's a cell phone which is a model Samsung A Quantum. It contains a quantum random number generator, and here comes the problem. Because this quantum random number generator was made by a European startup, IDQ, which has been, whose majority of stakes has been purchased by South Korea Telecom, so that I could not pull this out of my pocket when I gave my presentation at the G20. Otherwise, the European Commission would have taken out a bazooka and, killed me on the spot.
I see the urgency to do something about that.
Exactly, yes. And they are not happy because this is a typical example of this IP situation, which I said before, which is, we create IP. And there are issues where the value is created. Some people say the World Wide Web was invented in Geneva, like this random number generator, and then the value was reaped elsewhere. And I think that what we miss is really a common strategy for value creation in this field, and at international level. Mm-hmm. And my heart as a scientist would like very much that a lot of more cooperation. I mean, one of the reasons why I created a QuIC together with Thomas Strom from Bosch was to be able to have this global handshake. And actually, there is a lot of value that we can bring forward, because in this other thing which I have in my pocket is a random number generator, which is is slightly smaller size. It is made by a company whose CEO is sitting in here. It's a company from Barcelona, QSide. I'm not advertising for them, but the point is we have the capacity of making these things, but bringing them to scale is something which requires really more global undertaking. And we are not equipped for proper, sensible, sound, fair cooperation.
So give me the first step that you are able to do as in your position in 2022 to get there. I mean, it's not also here longer term.
Sitting around a table. So this is one of the things, as I said, one of the reasons why we created QuIC. This handshake is taking place. Before the pandemic, I went 3 times to the White House to negotiate on behalf of the Commission a joint call. This did not come to pass. Yet, I may say, there are different reasons, and of course each side tells very angry stories about the other side. So we have to sit around the table. I'm looking at Corey, and and try to find out how much we can progress.
Okay.
This will be my first step.
Thank you, Celia. You've joined the table. That's one priority.
Yeah, I mean, I think the good thing is that industry has a different perspective from the government. And so I think there's a lot that we can do together on the industry side while we let the governments work out their issues at the same time. So the sort of 2022 goals that I have in mind include the following. I have experience in other consortia where I've seen the enormous value of connecting the students in particular from universities with industry. And so we're putting in place, hopefully this year, a pilot project to start doing more of that and find opportunities at our member companies for students to come and do internships, things like that. So connecting students with industry opportunities, which is going to grow that pipeline of talent and I hope give extra qualities to the students during their education period. I've said in some of the meetings in QED-C this week that this year is the year of the supply chain. I think that there's going to be more focus on identifying, well, first sort of mapping the supply chain, understanding what it looks like, where across the world it reaches today, and identifying where there are holes or weaknesses, and helping then to figure out how to strengthen them. So there's a lot to do in that area. I wake up every day wanting to help my members, of which most are small companies, to survive and thrive. And small companies are very busy trying to, make a business and a product and succeed in their business. And so QED-C, I think, can help them do that by providing information and access to resources and being perhaps a one-stop shop for information that they would otherwise all have to find separately, and it would be sort of duplicative. So I hear that from our members. I need to understand what the requirements are for me to do government contracts, and the rules keep changing. And this is not a quantum-specific problem, but so there's just a lot of little things that I think we can do for small companies to make sure that they are healthy. And I want to also help them. And at our meeting on Monday this week, we actually had the honor of having as our keynote speaker, one of our keynote speakers, the deputy director of the FBI. And he spoke about how important it is from the government's perspective, even in the FBI, to support strong partnerships around the world. And that was going to be really critical to the success of the quantum industry, and that was going to be good for the US and good for our partners from like-minded countries and regions. And so there's a lot of support in all of the government agencies that I see for making that happen. And so bringing in the counterpart of the FBI in other countries to the conversation and making sure that all of the parts of the ecosystem have that assistance and support to make sure that they're making their business decisions every day with their eyes open and fully informed about how to make sure that they're going in a good direction so that at the end of the long path, they'll be in a secure and healthy place.
All right.
And last one.
3 priorities. 4.
To continue to identify and fill the enabling technology gaps, because that's in our sort of charter, and we continue to take that process all the way from identify to filling gaps.
Which sort of connects to the supply chain. Keep the microphone, because I'm going to ask you about the supply chain in a minute. There was a question here. Hang on, so I'll keep it.
So two comments. One, to Celia's point about the global enterprise, I recommend going to quantum.gov, seeing our policy piece on this, which sort of outlines what you're talking about. On the second one, I think, Freeke, you actually should go back and take a moment on the gender-specific part. You had a great thing you talked about Monday night. That's an intentional activity. I think you should put it out there so people are thinking about this and thinking about how they can do it. So I just want to prompt you to do that.
Okay, prompt taken.
Okay, yes. Well, what an initiative that we launched on Monday is that we would like to help young experts in quantum, female experts with young children and who get invited to give a talk or attend a conference internationally, but have a hard time arranging it at home. How do you do? And then say, okay, well, I'm not going. So we want to help them to go. So for instance, if they want to bring their sister to take care of their kid, for instance, or they want to bring their kid or they need extra childcare at home, we would like to support that. So that's one initiative to help, because I think in the end there's no silver bullet. It's we all have to work on this, and this is a pilot. So let's see what comes out of it.
Thank you. So I'll give the microphone to Tommaso. Here we go.
He has a microphone.
Oh, you have a microphone. Yeah, sorry. But I'll use the last 2 minutes on the supply chain issue, because the supply chain is global. Everybody agrees. We have a panel here representing basically Europe and the US. What about the rest? How do we grow this? And yes, COVID, prohibitive as it is, makes it very difficult to do these kind of things at this point. 2022 might hopefully be different. How do we make this truly global? Tommaso.
Well, we start from science. because that's the easy part, in the sense that I like this new. I like a lot of the euphemism which are used in this country, and I like very much. It is very elegant. The like-minded countries. Yes. So, so I mean, you need like-mindedness when things get a little bit thorny, and this is when you go to IP security and so on. But there is a lot to be done from the science side to create a basis, also with maybe not so much like-minded countries.
So go low on the TRL.
Low on the like-minded level of the like-mindedness. That's right. And actually, for instance, there is now an initiative which has been embraced globally for making 2025 the International Year of Quantum and getting UNESCO recognition. And we start a World Quantum Day, with really reaching out throughout, all 5 continents, all countries. So this could be, another table, broader, less thorny, from which we could start some cooperation, and also involving, for instance, learned academies across the globe to do this. This would be possible.
I'll translate into your homework for you. Next year, we want you to announce the International Day of Quantum, the World Quantum Day.
It's on April 14th. Next year, it will be the first, and April 14th, because 4.14 is the value of the Planck constant in electron volts.
Nice. So we get UNESCO to give the keynote.
Yes.
All right, good. Celia, maybe answer that question too, and then Freeke and Enrique, and then we have to close.
The question again, sorry.
The question is, how do we make this global? And the International Day of Quantum is one way of doing it.
Go all the way around the world.
UNESCO, we have UNESCO. What else?
Yeah. No. Well, it was mentioned on I think the slide that was shown from QuIC. The Japan group is already engaged in some conversations, and I've had some outreach from other parts of Asia as well. So I think that this will continue to grow. I have no doubt. And it's challenging. I hope that we're all able to travel more frequently in the future, because it is difficult. I have actually a meeting next week with the Japanese, and of course it's at night my time, and it's early in the morning for them. And so we really need to get around the table together, especially I think when there's the bigger difference in language and cultures and things like that. It's even more important.
So more jet lag, less Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good luck with that, and let everybody know if there's anything that you need help with to support you as QED-C going forward.
I mean, we're a very lean organization. We rely, I'm looking out at those who are with member organizations, members of QED-C in the audience. Those are the people who are doing all the heavy lifting, and we encourage anyone who's interested. And we're not just a corporate membership. We do have academic and other types of members. So we're very inclusive that way, and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Freeke. And then the last word to Enrique.
Yes, well, I'm a strong advocate of very concrete, tangible projects. So I think we should do things together, like little stuff. For instance, with France, we had launched this joint job board. We had a fellow from the US sitting in the embassy in The Hague for 3 months and building relationships and actually doing stuff together. And then you build this trusted community, because that's also a buzzword we are using a lot, a trusted community. And in the end, a community is a community of people. So you have to do stuff together. So very down to earth.
Down to earth, lots of things, 2022.
Well, most of the things has already been told here, and that's right. I mean, we need to foster the cooperation between the different international bodies, but what's left to that? Okay, see, and this is something about talent also. This is about getting the right talent, and for some particular disciplines inside quantum technologies, you may tap on talent on different countries, and this is a way just to further the cooperation, because this talent is not going to remain forever in some countries. This is going to return. This is the way it had happened before in some other technologies. We are, I say that because I came from a company that we are 29 and only 5 are Spaniards. Most of them came from some different countries, not all well developed, but talent people that we know that they are not going to remain, but just fostering the cooperation, not only from the associations, but also in some cases from universities and some particular technologies. You cannot tap talent on experimental, let's say, physicists in some countries, but theoretical ones could be. This is a way also to just improve the situation in some particular countries, I think.
All right. Thanks, Enrique. We come to the end of the session. Thanks, everyone, for listening in. Last invitation next year, as many as possible concrete steps, I think, on the government track side. Lots of things that can be done. We hope to see you back next year here in person. And on behalf of QED-C, QuIC, Quantum Delta, and the European Flagship fleet, thank you. And, well, probably see you next year. And Scott's waiting, I think.